Okie dokie, everyone. I think we actually got something going on. I got kind of a sound check happen, so hope this is all working out. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Rob, co-host of the Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies live video podcast. Welcome to this new experiment of mine I'm calling Rob's Hot Mic Reviews. And yeah, I'm kind of excited, kind of recording it live to tape. If you do end up in the chat, you know what? Shout out, say hello. And after I've done the review, gotten past the credits, any spoiler zone stuff, be more than happy to hang out with you, kind of like in a Green Party after room. But yeah, this is my new experiment. Record the review live. I watched the movie last night, took a few notes. We'll see how this plays out. Today we're going to be looking at, if I can find it. There we are. Today we're looking at my take on French Netflix's sci-fi thriller Oxygen, or as I like to say, somebody's in a pickle. Anyway, yeah, so that's Oxygen. It is, here's the log line from Netflix. After waking up in a cryogenic unit, a woman fights to survive and remember who she is before the oxygen runs out. So it's kind of one of those buried alive, ticking time clock kind of gags, eh? And she has amnesia. Anyway, this flick was directed by Alexandre Aja, and I hope I'm pronouncing that. Alexandre. Oh, I'm totally muffing that up. My apologies. Alexandre Aja, Christie LeBlanc, Mélanie Laurent, and some of the noteworthy tidbits. Anne Hathaway was originally actually cast for this flick, as was Noomi Rapace. And what's interesting, she actually has an executive producer credit, which I think's kind of cool. Another interesting thing, and let me bring this up on another screen here. Bear with me, folks. Yeah, this, which I think is super cool. Oh, there's a little more than little too much doubling kind of thing going on. And this is in the description. I found an interview on Script Magazine with the writer. First of all, she's Canadian. Who knew? She sold the screenplay as a spec script. And for those of you who don't know, that basically it's a script that just came out of the writer's head, wrote it down, and peddled it to whoever might be able to buy it. And I think that's super cool. A lot of the scripts you actually hear about, a lot of the movies you see, the writers were hired to write the script. It may have only started with a concept, but they were hired by someone. Spec scripts are actually kind of a rare thing, and usually they're more used as calling cards for people to get in the business. This is the first spec script she sold, and which is, again, dope, I think, as the kids would say. I think that's super cool. It's the first spec script she ever sold, and that it actually got made. Originally, very exciting, originally got attached to Anne Hathaway, then Noomi Rapace, and finally made with the very capable Mélanie Laurent. And if I can find that, there we are. All right, so yeah, that's kind of interesting. So why don't we just jump into the actual, let's say, the meat of the review. Like I said, it's kind of she wakes up, starts kind of poking around, maybe a bit of a freak out. It is very sci-fi, but it's also very thriller-esque. My first thoughts when I, saw this flick or when I was about to turn the flick on, is I was a little nervous. Movies like this, they're very contained, and they really run the risk of ending up feeling like a Twilight Zone that's outlived its, outstayed its welcome. And so it sort of rises and falls on the strength of both the story and the key performance. So let's get into it. As far as the craft goes, and here, when I talk about craft, I'm thinking about the look, the sound, the performances, where you can see it, the direction, and a lot of that's in the way that it's cut, blocked, where the camera's set up, that kind of thing. It's all pretty solid. One of the notes that I one of the things that I thought was, given its budget, and it does look like it's a tight budget, not just because it basically has one actor, a couple of flashback scenes, but basically one actor and a couple of disembodied voices, is it, for the most part, kind of escapes that, rendered look, that sci-fi rendered look. And even, it doesn't go too heavy in the blurred, so it doesn't look too rendered look. You do see some of the standard, let's say, what I would call lower budget, mid to lower budget, sort of sci-fi, production value choices, super modern, lots of glass, fancy locations, but out in the wilderness. So you can avoid, you get a nice tight shot. You can avoid showing any big, wide, modern cityscapes. They did not have Blade Runner 2049 or MCU money here. So there's no big, wide shots of grandiose cities and a whole bunch of action happening, which is fine. That's not what this is. That's not what it's trying to be. It's not what it was originally pitched as. Like I said, go check it out. There are a couple of, a couple things I'll talk about later after the credits and what I'm calling the spoiler zone. And because it is one of those sci-fi, will she, won't she? What's the big mystery? Why is she in it? Why can't she remember who she is? Who is she when she does, if she does? So some of this stuff I've put into after the credits. Feel free, if you stick around there though, be warned, I'll be giving up a lot of spoilers. You'll kind of know the movie by then, all right? Now, as far as story goes, again, I found it pretty solid. It does a great job, the way they and this is a mix of craft and story, right? But the way they were able to maintain, the filmmakers were able to maintain your focus on her immediate drama, the ticking clock, which is really oxygen running out as she's trying to figure out, again, where she is, who she is, which are intertwined into whether or not she's going to survive this ordeal. I thought were really well maintained. There's plenty of times where I'm right in it. And there's even a nice little moment right when the second act breaks into the third, where they kind of change literally the framing, and where you're like, oh, she's standing up now. It's, and it's a nice hook into the third act. And yeah, so the story is solid. Is it perfect? No. I think, and again, I'll save a couple of these quibbles for the spoiler zone after the credits, but I found, how do I put this, folks? You know what? Maybe a little Deus Ex Machina. On the positive side, though, there was points where I'm like, oh, that's a plot hole, and then later on, as things are revealed, no, that wasn't. That was a proper clue, and I got mislaid. The other thing I want to compliment the storytellers on, again, they were able to maintain that tension and keep you focused, because another problem with movies like this, especially if you've seen a few, you start to try and outguess the storytellers. You're jumping ahead. You're going, oh, I bet you it's this. I bet you it's that. I bet you it's that. And I found not only, even when I was guessing correctly, it's later on, I'm like, I guessed for the wrong reasons. That was just me. Yeah, solid story. Now, when we get into the kind of the themes and the meaning and everything, and again, I've got a few that are really, you really are in spoiler territory if I talk about them now. I mean, it's a pretty light, relatively, for a science fiction film. It's actually, and I would call it science fiction as opposed to space opera a la Star Wars. Still, it's thematically, it's pretty light. And I'm not sure how deep you could get given its tight time frame. Again, that ticking clock, I don't think it's spoiling much that she basically has the hour and change that we're watching her on. It's a 110-minute movie, say an hour and a half with credits. That's basically, about the time she's got. And so it's kind of hard. And plus, because she discovers herself, she is revealed to herself, but that's not the same as growth through, sort of a philosophical conflict or anything. So, you know what? It's light, but I'm not sure you can expect too much out of it. That said, I felt a couple of things where it's like kind of, okay, this is sort of a tired trope, one that I find philosophically that kind of bugs me. And that I'll discuss in the spoiler zone part, and feel free to stick around for there. But otherwise, yeah, like I said, light. There's a bit of the mind-body duality thing. They certainly come down firmly on one side. What else? I wouldn't. I think that's about as far as I can go here within the constraints of not, blowing it all for you. Now, what's next here? Is it worth your time? Before we get to that, let me just shamelessly beg you for a like. And if you wouldn't mind, little like, little subscription if you like this sort of thing. And don't forget to ring the bell. Then you'll stay in the loop on this stuff. All right, let's get back to where we're at there. We're talking, is it worth your time? Absolutely. Yeah, by no way are you going to go, this is the most amazing film I've ever seen, but, or a classic of the sci-fi genre, or even a classic of the, hey, I'm trapped in a box, perhaps underground. No, none of those things. But the simple fact is, it's an entertaining hour and a half. It goes beyond, and I didn't mention it before, but I'll mention it here again. Another risk you run is, because we've all kind of seen this gag, like it could be a dust short, but first of all, way better executed. And no, it's a level above. And Melanie Laurent really sells you on it. You feel the claustrophobia when you should. You feel her, kind of, how do I figure this out? You feel her kind of freaking out, or she delivered. There's something about being in the hands of a pro, whether it be a performer or the filmmakers behind the camera, and you just know you're in good hands, and you can let the story go, and that's this film. So definitely worth your time, even if you may not remember it in a couple of years. It's still, a good an hour and a half well spent. Okay, I think that's about it. What else is there to say? Maybe, like I said, a couple of items. First of all, yes, this is being recorded on May 13th. Thursday, May 13th, Sunday, May 15th, 2021. My colleague and I, Jim, are going to be looking at, on Sunday night, 9:30 Central Standard Time, Central Daylight Time, Universal Coordinated Time Offset -5. Jim and I are going to be taking a deep dive in Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies. We're going to be overanalyzing The Woman in the Window, another Netflix psychological thriller starring Amy Adams. So yeah, you know what? Another reason to subscribe so you're notified. But that's 9:30 Sunday evening. What else? I think that's about it. Thank you so much. Sorry, folks. Thank you so much for dropping by. And like I said, if I'm going to bring down the tunes, cue the credits, but I am going to do a bit of a spoiler zone, talking a bit more about the story, some of the things that bugged me, some of the things I was entertained by, but they're kind of spoilery, so be warned, you stick around for that. And if there's anyone in the chat at that time who still wants to hang out and that, I'm more than happy to kind of do like a little green room after party if you'd like. So yeah, I think that's about it. Let's yeah, we'll take that off. We'll bring down the tunes and I've been in your waters. Well, hello. All right. Now that that's out of the way, credits are done. That 10 seconds or 9 seconds, whatever it was. Let's talk about... Actually, I'm going to have some water. We're in the spoiler zone now, folks. And really, with some stuff I'm talking about, I mean, come on. It's right there. You're warned. Okay, first of all, I want to talk about some of the things that, let's say bugged me about the story or bugged me about this kind of story. One of the gags, like part of the one of the big plot reveals later on is that, she's a clone. And so that's one of the reasons that she's, inadvertently woken up in this pod and she doesn't have all her memories and it's obviously a big fail. And so when she's talking to people and this is, maybe a little space magic, but she's able to make phone calls from this thing. Can't get anyone to save her for reasons, but she is able to make phone calls. And there's this kind of weird sort of set of assumptions that everyone kind of accepts in sci-fi, is that we can't let the dying person know they're dying. Now, I know there was a beautiful film, and it was Aquafina was the star. I can't remember the name. A Chinese family go to China, woman is dying, and that's culturally appropriate. That the family would avoid telling or, consciously choose not to tell grandma that. I find it in a Western context, it's always about, we have to prevent panic. And it's like, no one panics like that. That is not a Western thing, but it seems to be used a lot in these kind of movies. And I look at it as something almost, I don't know, a little lazy. Yeah, it's. I just think it's a tired trope to put a block when, I don't know, think of something better. There's got to be a better reason why they can't. Maybe the communication is inadequate, or I don't know. Like, I mean, heck, maybe they tell her, "Listen, you're screwed," and she's like, "I don't believe it." And part of her growth is she has to accept it. I'm not saying she dies at the end. I'm just saying that's a way to deal with it, Yeah, but I don't like that. And here in sci-fi, and again, more, for reasons, she's actually in space. That's why they can't come and rescue her, because she's part of there's a spaceship with a whole bunch of these pods, and she's supposed to wake up several, decades and light years away from Earth. And that didn't happen, and that's the reason why they can't. But also why they're trying to cut her off. The world's going to crap, but they're not telling one on the planet. So even though she's able to make calls, they keep trying to cut her off and string her along so that she doesn't talk to anyone else. And it's just, it's a little weak. It's a little weak because it's like, well, I don't know, why don't you just start calling the media or something? Like, why can't they control that? Why, like, just, yeah, it's a little weak. And also it's that sci-fi trope of the public will panic if they knew they were doomed. And I'm like, I'm not buying that. I'm thinking it's more interesting to develop a plot around, well, they knew, because you just can't keep secrets like that. That doesn't happen. It's all just ridiculous. This is a perfect time talking a thing about, let's say, meaning that bugs me. This is one of those, again, that we'll get some off. Humanity will survive. Because there's always this kind of implication that we need a clean slate, because we've made a mess of it. As though our human culture baggage won't travel with us. I mean, heck, I lived in Calgary for a few years. I got really down on the city. I moved back to my hometown, Winnipeg, thinking that I would look at it differently and fresh. No, my baggage, my psychological baggage was in the car, had it warmed up. Come on, Rob, let's go. Same thing with this. Also, this kind of cultural fantasy that we're all, and Elon Musk is a part of it, and is that we're gonna somehow magically, what's the word I'm looking for? We're going to somehow magically be saved by, oh, we got to hedge our bets. It's like, no, you're not. We aren't. The rich and powerful will. They'll send some schmucks up there to make it nice, and then they'll fly in, buy up the nice stuff. It's kind of what happened in North America. A lot of North American conflict is because the rich are like, we can make money off of that, and then we'll send some settlers in, and they'll help us make money, and then they'll make it nice, and then we'll roll in. We'll make our little part of the continent just like the old country, including all the power relationships, and it's like, and here it is in sci-fi, and it's just like, come on, do we got nothing else? Where's the sci-fi that says, no, we've got to focus on here? Because honestly, folks, the idea that we're going to be able to get off this rock, and save ourselves by spreading our risk amongst the stars is, you know what? Not zip, but pretty effing slim. All right. I think that's about it for the spoiler zone. Yeah. You know what I did forget? I forgot to do the ideological ingredients. Oh, well, you know what? Next time. I'll remember for next time, because I'm going to... well, actually, I could tack it on here, right? And just put a jump thing. I'm going to do that. Okay. Ideological ingredients. This will be a little offset. So, go back to this. All right. Would it earn a reframe stamp? I do not believe so. It has a woman writer and there's a woman star, but I don't think, took a quick scan of the crew list, I don't think it would. Is it union made? I don't, to be perfectly honest, I don't know. I got to leave a big question mark. I couldn't find any indication one way or another whether or not any French production unions were involved. I suspect it is. It's France, but I don't know. So I'm going to leave it as a question mark. Does it pass the Bechdel test? I believe it does. There's a couple of interesting scenes. Yeah, I believe it does. So let's give that a big check mark. And let's go back to the, because it was talking politics. Is there class consciousness here? Is there any class analysis? No, or whoops. No, there is not. No. Anyway, yeah, folks. All right. I think we really are done, unless there is somebody in the chat. Not a soul. So I think, yeah, I'm gonna call this one paid. That's how I handle these things. All right. What do I have to do? Music. Take that off. Take me.